On this point of gender roles, obviously society has changed in the last couple of decades in terms of equality, and more women are in work at higher level positions in corporations, in the C-suite, earning much more money. This has caused a shift, I should say, in the sort of typical gender roles and assumptions of what each gender is supposed to be doing in couples. And I'm wondering now, with more women earning more money, in many cases, they're going to be earning more than their husband in heterosexual relationships. Have you seen new dynamics and new issues created because of this, in terms of, like, I don't know, insecure men feeling emasculated, or the woman not being happy that she's contributing more? And I ask this because I had someone on my podcast a couple of months back who said to me that I think it's 70 or 80% of women expect that their romantic partner will earn more than them. But that gap is closing now because women are earning more and more money. I'm just wondering if you've seen in those couples scenarios where the woman earns more and it's causing problems.
I've seen it all the time. I think that we see different gender dynamics. I recall one episode where I spoke to a young woman and her boyfriend. She was around 40 years old. She made way more than her boyfriend. Care to guess how much she makes per month?
$20,000?
$200,000 per month. She has a business. It's doing very well. She's around the age of 40. Now, her boyfriend was never taught about money when he was growing up. Most people are not. He never learned about investing. Certainly no one was telling him about a Roth IRA when he was 12 years old. And he had started his own business and he was on the upswing. He's making a few $1,000s a month. Good for him. She's making $200,000 a month. Her parents started talking to her about investing when she was 5 years old. So here we already see a difference, not just in gender, but in socioeconomic status, okay? And over time, that progressed. So they come to me and she says, I want him to pay for dinner occasionally. Fine, super reasonable. He even said, no problem, I want to. So he would take his credit card out and he would offer to pay. And she would say, no, I want you to contribute more to your IRA. So in many ways, she wanted him to pay. She wanted to feel taken care of, which is totally reasonable. But when he offered, she said no. So this is the kind of thing that I often see, which is, I think I want one thing, but when I get that thing, I don't actually want it. It doesn't make me feel the way I thought it would. I want to earn 50K more. I think that'll make me feel safe. Oh my God, I am earning 50K more. It doesn't actually change the way I feel. So I worked with this couple and I helped them understand why they both felt this way about money. And, you know, from the outside, it's like, this is so irrational. If you make more, just pay more. If I were in that situation, et cetera, et cetera. None of that stuff matters. When you are in the couple, in that relationship, you will feel a certain way. And we got to work with you individually, not what everybody else says. In the end, the conclusion that they came to was she wanted him to occasionally pay for dinner, but she also wanted him to fill up his IRA. So this is what they did. Every so often, before they went out to dinner, she would give him her credit card. And she would say, here, I want you to pay for tonight. And he said, cool. He understood it. They went out and that's what they did. Now, to us sitting here, we're like, this dance makes no sense. Why don't they just do it this way or that way? Guess what? Every single one of us has some irrational thing we do with money. Every single one of us. And I think that we are ready to actually have conversations about how we are irrational. Money is not just dollars and cents on a page. That's why you don't feel good about money even when you have more than you ever thought you would. That's why you worry about money, but you have never read a single book on personal finance. We are all irrational, including me. And when you get into a relationship, you got to acknowledge that. And then you got to say, hey, what is our vision of a rich life together? Let's build that. If it means we do a little dance about the credit card once every 2 months, fine. Do we both feel good? Is it fair? Then I'm good with it.
I wonder if a lot of men are just choosing to remain single until they've kind of worked on themselves, because I think actually that's probably the path I would have taken if I'm being completely honest. Well, I kind of did take is I didn't have a relationship until I was able to really provide.
Oh, the P word.
Yeah.
Yeah. And where did that word come from? Provide.
Like watching my father, watching movies, everything.
Exactly. Yeah. No one ever says like, you are a provider, but we learn it from a million different perspectives. And yeah, I hear a lot of guys. I mean, when I was living in New York and I had a lot of single friends, topic of conversation was, I'm not ready to get married. I need to get to a certain point in my career first. Mm-hmm. We have all these words for it. And deep down, there's a feeling that we're often expressing, you know, maybe I'm not ready, maybe I'm not enough, maybe I need to do X, Y, Z before I do the thing that I want. And so part of what we talk about when it comes to relationships and money is like, let's actually shine a light on that. Let's not be shy about it. If you want someone to pay for your dinner, fine. That's totally fine. Let's have that conversation. If you want to be the sole earner in your household, okay, let's see what it would take. And too often, we don't have those conversations. We just dance around them for 50 years.
Who should pay for the first date then?
My answer is, doesn't matter. It would be nice if the person who suggested the date pays, but I think we spend way too much time focusing on the first date and way too little time thinking about the next 14,625 days. It's like a couple who's obsessed with the wedding. Fine, you want a nice wedding, great. What about the marriage? Same thing with money. First date, okay, we can have that conversation, but aren't you more interested in how your partner thinks about money and talks about money? Are they a cheapskate? Are they generous? Are they abundant? Did they grow up the same or different than you? That is something we don't talk about. Meanwhile, we have 5 million YouTube videos on who's going to pay on the first date. We are missing the real point. The point of money in a relationship is not just about the first date. That's fun for clicks, but it's about, do we see money the same way? Do we connect? Are we going to be rowing in the same direction, or are you going to be doing that and I'm doing this, and we can never get aligned?
You can only make a first impression once, right? And if you are a guy, this is just how I feel anyway. If I go on a first date with a woman, and we have a wonderful date, it's a nice restaurant, and then it gets to the end of the day, and then I turn to her and say, "Shall we split the bill?" I couldn't even say it with a straight face, frankly. I definitely couldn't ask her to pay.
Yeah.
I just could never. And I think if you anonymously polled 10 of my female friends and said, how would you feel if on the first date, the guy asked you to pay? Mm-hmm. I think privately they would say, that's a bit of a turnoff, that's a red flag, that's an ick.
I think probably that's true. And again, goes to the power of socialization, right? Like, culture is very difficult to change. We got to admit that. We got to acknowledge that. And when I was dating, I paid for dates. So I don't have a problem with it. I like to be generous. I think that when you are in a relationship, you like to know that your partner is generous too. Now, generous comes in lots of ways. It could be paying for dates. It could be planning a trip. It could be being thoughtful and, buying extra toothpaste because we're running low. There's so many different ways to be generous. But generosity for me would be a value. Paying for a date, sure, I paid for dates. I'm happy to. I like to do it. But generosity to me is way more important to talk about that in a relationship versus the date itself.
Because chivalry, this idea that the man is to lead in that regard and to, open the door and open the car door and pull out the chair.
Yeah, but think about it. I agree with all that stuff. I support it. But think about what message that sends when you tell men you're supposed to be chivalrous, but there's no real context, no real teaching around it. And let's say you have a 26-year-old guy now who's earning less than his girlfriend. So he wants to be chivalrous, but for him, he's like, well, look at our bank accounts. And so what I want to emphasize to people is you can be chivalrous, you could be generous. Money is just a small part of that. Yeah. Let's not over-fixate on who's paying for tapas, okay? And let's actually think about the important things. When it comes to money, we are so obsessed with $3 questions. People are obsessing over, should I buy this coffee? Can I afford this appetizer? On and on and on about $3 questions. We totally neglect the $30,000 questions or the $300,000 questions. Is this person financially aligned with me? How do I even find out? Am I investing 5 to 10% of take-home pay every month? Are we doing it together? Do we talk about money regularly and proactively and positively? Those things matter, and they're actually worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. These $3 questions, including who's paying for appetizers or should I buy a latte, irrelevant. In fact, get the big answers in life right, and you can buy all the appetizers you ever want.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.